I left the Amish when I was 22. 6 months later, my mother sent me a letter. The day I left the Amish, my mother stopped saying my name, but she never stopped being my mother. The letter came on a Thursday. I know it was Thursday, because Thursday was the day. I worked the early shift at the diner. 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, and I had just gotten back to my rental room still smelling like coffee and bacon grease when I saw it on the floor where it had slid under the door. A plain white envelope. My name written on the front in my mother's handwriting. I had not seen my mother's handwriting in 6 months. I sat down on the edge of the bed and I held the envelope for a long time without opening it. I turned it over. I looked at the stamps, the postmark, the careful way she had printed each letter of my name. Rachel. She had written my name. I did not know at that moment how significant that was. I did not know that in the gathering the week before, when someone had asked after me, my mother had been required, by the rules of the Meetung, to refer to me not by name but as the one who has gone. I did not know that writing my name on an envelope and sending it to my English address was itself a small act of rule bending that had probably cost her something. I just knew it was her handwriting. And I opened it. My name is Rachel. I grew up Old Order Amish in a district in central Pennsylvania, and I left when I was 22. This channel, Beyond the Bonnet, is where I tell the stories that the community I came from does not want told. Not because I am angry. I want to say that clearly, before anything else. I left that anger behind a long time ago. I tell these stories because they are true, and because truth, when it has been kept inside a closed system for long enough, needs air. I am going to read you the letter my mother sent me. 12 sentences, 1 page. I am going to read it to you in full, twice, once near the beginning of this video, and once near the end. And the second time I read it, it will mean something completely different than it did the first time. Not because the words will change. The words will be identical. But by the time we get to the second reading, you will understand something about my mother and about the community she was writing from that will make those same 12 sentences sound like a different letter entirely. Leave me a comment before you go. Has anyone in your life ever loved you in a way that required them to partially erase you? Tell me yes, or tell me the whole story. I will read every one. Dear Rachel, I am writing to tell you that your father's back has been troubling him, but he is managing. The harvest was good this year. Thomas passed his rumspringa without incident and has been baptized. Your sister Anna had her baby, a girl, healthy, 7 pounds. They have named her according to what was decided. I want you to know that the house is the same. The kitchen garden did well. The quilts from last winter are finished and stored. I pray for you every morning. I do not know what your life looks like now. I do not ask because I am not certain it is right for me to know. We do not say your name at gatherings. This is what is required. I follow what is required. I hope you are warm. I hope you are eating. Your mother. I folded the letter back into the envelope. I sat on the edge of that narrow bed for a long time. My sister had a baby. A girl. 7 pounds. Healthy. I was an aunt. I found that out in the same paragraph as the harvest report. I need to explain what shunning is, because most people outside Amish communities have heard the word, without understanding what it actually means to live inside it. The Maidung, the formal shunning, is not simply being ignored. It is not a cold shoulder or a social snub, or the kind of quiet ostracism that happens in any community when someone breaks the rules. It is a theological practice with specific requirements, rooted in passages from the New Testament, designed to do one thing: make the person who is left understand, through the removal of ordinary human connection, what they have chosen to give up. When the Maidung is placed on you, here is what it means in practice. Your family members who remain in the community are not permitted to eat at the same table as you. If you return to visit, and some people do return to visit, carrying the hope that proximity will soften what distance has hardened, you eat at a separate table. Your food is served to you apart from the family. You sit in the room while they eat together, and you eat alone. And everyone maintains the arrangement with the particular discipline of people who genuinely believe this is what faithfulness requires. Your family members are not permitted to do business with you. They cannot buy from you or sell to you or accept services from you in any formal way. The economic threads of a life lived together are cut, and in community gatherings, in church, at frolics, at the social events that structure Amish life, your name is not spoken. You are referred to, if referred to at all, by circumlocution. The one who is gone, the one who left, the one we pray for. Your name is not erased from your family's memory, but it is excised from the community's mouth. And in a community where the spoken word and the social bond are the same thing, not being named is a particular kind of not existing. This is what my mother was writing from when she wrote that letter. This is the framework inside which she found 12 sentences to say to me. I left on a Tuesday morning in April. I had been planning it for 8 months. Not dramatically, not with dramatic plans and secret phone calls and the kind of escape narrative that makes for a good television movie. Just quietly, the way you plan something when the planning itself has to be kept entirely inside your own head, because there is no one in your world you can tell. I had saved money from the work I did outside the community, cleaning houses for English families, which was permitted as long as the earnings were brought home and the hours were accounted for. I had not brought all the earnings home. I had been putting small amounts into a tin I kept at the back of my closet, behind the extra prayer caps, for 8 months. The morning I left, I got up before anyone else was awake. I dressed. I made the fire the way I had made it every morning of my life. I put the kettle on. And then I picked up the bag I had packed the night before, and I walked out the back door, and I did not look at the house as I walked away, because I knew that if I looked at it, I would not be able to keep walking. I had arranged for an Englishwoman, a client whose house I cleaned, to pick me up at the end of the road at 6 in the morning. She was there. She did not ask many questions. She drove me to a bus station 2 towns over, and she gave me a ham sandwich she had packed, and she said, "You can call me if you need anything." And then she drove away, and I stood in a bus station parking lot with a bag and a tin of money, and the particular feeling of someone who has just done something irreversible, and is only now beginning to understand what irreversible means. I had a destination. A cousin who had left 5 years earlier and who had said, years ago, in a letter that was the only contact we were permitted, "If you ever need somewhere to go, here is my address." I had kept that address. I had kept it the way you keep something you are not certain you will use, but cannot bring yourself to throw away. I used it. My cousin's name was Esther. She lived in a small apartment in a town I had never been to. She met me at the bus station, with her English clothes and her uncovered hair and her arms open, and she held me for a long time in the middle of that bus station, without saying anything. And I was grateful that she didn't say anything, because I did not have words yet for what was happening to me. I moved into her spare room. I got a job at a diner. I learned how to use a debit card, and how to read a bus schedule, and how to talk to strangers in the particular way that English people talk to strangers. Directly, with eye contact, with a friendliness that assumed nothing about your background or your beliefs or the shape of your inner life. I was learning how to be a person in a world that did not already know everything about me. It was terrifying. And it was the first time in my life I had ever felt that the air around me had enough room in it. 6 months later, the letter came. I want to tell you what it was like to read those 12 sentences for the first time. My father's back. The harvest. Thomas was baptized. Anna's baby, a girl, 7 pounds, healthy, named according to what was decided. The house is the same, the kitchen garden, the quilts were stored. She prayed for me every morning. She did not know what my life looked like now. We do not say your name at gatherings. This is what is required. I follow what is required. I hope you are warm. I hope you are eating. I read it 3 times in a row, sitting on that narrow bed. And what I felt, I want to be precise about this, because the feeling was more complicated than any single word, was a kind of grief I had not expected. Not for myself. I had prepared myself, over 8 months of planning, for the grief of leaving. I had made some kind of peace with it, or I thought I had. What I had not prepared for was the grief of seeing my mother's grief, compressed into 12 sentences about the harvest and the kitchen garden and the quilts. She had written me a letter. Inside a community that had placed a formal shunning on me, she had sat down and written me a letter. She had written my name on the envelope. She had put a stamp on it. She had walked it to wherever Amish letters get collected for mailing, and she had sent it to my English address. And in that letter she had told me about the harvest. Because the harvest was what she was allowed to say. Because the harvest was safe. Because the harvest did not name what had happened between us, or what it had cost either of us, or what she felt in the mornings when she prayed for me. Because the harvest did not violate the requirements of the Maydung, the way that saying, "I miss you, Rachel. I miss you every single day," would have violated them. She had written me a letter about the harvest, because the harvest was the most love the framework allowed. I knew that even then. I understood it even then. But understanding something and not being wounded by it are not the same thing. I cried for a long time on that bed. Not neatly, not quietly. The kind of crying that sounds like something breaking. And when I was finished, I folded the letter back into its envelope, and I put it in the small box where I kept the things I had brought from home. A photograph, my grandmother's thimble, the address written in Esther's handwriting. And I closed the box, and I went back to the diner the next morning, and I poured coffee, and I kept going. Because that is what you do. I want to tell you what shunning actually feels like from the inside. Not the theological version, not the bishop's explanation of why it is necessary and what scripture it comes from, and what it is designed to accomplish. The actual physical, daily, embodied experience of being shunned by the people who raised you. 3 months after I left, I went back to visit. Esther had warned me not to. She had done the same thing 5 years earlier, and she had told me, "It is not what you hope it will be. It is harder than not going at all." I went anyway, because I needed to see my mother's face. I needed to know she was real, and I was real, and that the letter had actually come from her hands, and not from some version of her I was constructing from memory. My father met me at the road. He did not embrace me. He shook my hand, firmly, without coldness, in the way of a man who has decided how he is going to do this and is doing it. And he said, "Your mother is inside." And he walked back toward the barn. My mother was in the kitchen. Of course she was in the kitchen. She looked the same. Exactly the same. Which surprised me, because I felt certain that I must look different. That 6 months of English life must have changed something visible about me. But she looked at me with the same eyes she had always looked at me with, and she said my name, Rachel. Just once, quietly. And that was the closest we came to the conversation I had driven 4 hours to have. We sat at separate tables for lunch. She served me my food on a plate and set it at the small side table that had been, before I left, the children's table. I sat there alone and ate while my parents ate at the main table. My younger siblings looked at me sideways when they thought no one was watching. Nobody spoke directly to me except my youngest brother, who was 7 and had not fully grasped the requirements yet, and who climbed up next to me at the children's table and pressed his small body against my arm, and did not say anything either, but did not move away. I sat at that table for 45 minutes, and I understood something that I had not understood from the letter alone. The shunning was not designed to punish me. It was designed to show me, as concretely and physically and unavoidably as possible, exactly what I had chosen to live without. The empty chair at the main table that used to be mine. My mother's hands set my plate at the small table without meeting my eyes. My father's handshake instead of an embrace. It was not cruelty. Every person in that room believed, with complete sincerity, that what they were doing was faithful. That the Maidung was mercy, a tool designed to bring the lost one back, to make the cost of leaving so present and so physical that returning would become the easier choice. It did not make me want to return. It made me understand, more completely than I ever had, why I had left. I want to read you the letter again. Dear Rachel, I am writing to tell you that your father's back has been troubling him, but he is managing. She is telling me the family is intact, that they are managing without me, that I should not worry, or perhaps that I should understand that the worry would be unproductive. The harvest was good this year. The farm is continuing. Life is continuing. The structure is holding. Thomas passed his Rumspringa without incident and has been baptized. One more child safely inside the community. One more person who chose to stay. She is telling me this, I think, without knowing whether she means it as comfort or as comparison. Your sister Anna had her baby, a girl, healthy, 7 pounds. They have named her according to what was decided. I am an aunt. She is telling me I am an aunt. Inside the requirements of the Maidung, inside all the things she cannot say, she found a way to tell me, I have a niece. I want you to know that the house is the same. The kitchen garden did well. The quilts from last winter are finished and stored. Mia, the house is the same. She is telling me that the place I grew up in still exists, that it has not disappeared because I left it. Or perhaps she is telling me that it exists without me, that it continues. I have read this sentence 50 times, and I still cannot tell which one she means. I pray for you every morning. Mia, this is the most important sentence in the letter. This sentence contains everything she cannot say. Every morning. Not sometimes. Every morning, she brings my name to whatever private space a shunned daughter's name is allowed to exist in. I do not know what your life looks like now. I do not ask because I am not certain it is right for me to know. Mong, she is not asking because the Maidung does not permit her to. She is not asking because asking would be investing in a life she has been required to treat as outside the community's concern. But she told me she does not know. She told me she is not certain it is right for her to know. That uncertainty, that not certain, is the most honest thing in the letter. We do not say your name at gatherings. This is what is required. I follow what is required. Among 3 sentences. The first is fact. The second is the rule. The third is the most devastating thing my mother has ever said to me in any form. I follow what is required. Note: I believe this is right. Note: I think this is what God wants. Just: I follow what is required. She is telling me she is following the rule. She is not telling me she agrees with it. I hope you are warm. I hope you are eating. She hopes I am warm. She hopes I am eating. My mother, who spent 22 years making sure I was warm and fed, who woke before dawn to light the fire, who checked the children's plates before she touched her own food. She has been reduced, by the requirements of the community she will not leave and cannot fully follow with her whole heart, to hoping. From a distance, without being allowed to ask. Your mother. Not love, Mama. Not with all my love. Just your mother. Because even the closing of a letter is governed by what is appropriate inside the Maidung. The letter was not about the harvest. I understood that the first time I read it, on some level. But I understand it completely now. The letter was from my mother saying, I see you. I cannot say I see you, because seeing you requires engaging with your English life, which the Maidung says I should not engage with. But I am writing you a letter, and I am writing your name on the envelope, and I am putting a stamp on it, and I am sending it to your English address. And inside it I am finding every way I can, within the walls the community has built around what I am allowed to say, to tell you that I have not let you go. She told me my father's back hurt because she wanted me to worry about him, because worrying about him means I still belong to the family, in some interior way that the Maidung cannot touch. She told me Thomas was baptized because she wanted me to know that my brother chose to stay. Not as an accusation, as information she thought I deserved to have. She told me Anna had a baby, a girl, 7 pounds, healthy, because she knew I would want to know. Because I am an aunt. Because whatever I have given up by leaving, I am still an aunt. And my mother could not bring herself to let me not know that. She said she prays for me every morning, because it was the only sentence in the letter that required no management, no careful navigation, and no threading of the needle between what the community permitted and what a mother needs. Prayer was hers, her private act, the one space where my name could exist without restriction. And she said she follows what is required because she wanted me to know that she knows, that she sees the shape of what is being asked of her, that she is not following it blindly, out of complete conviction. She is following it because she is still inside the community, because leaving is not something she can do, and because the cost of leaving, the cost I paid, is a cost she has assessed and found too high. But she wanted me to know she sees it. She is still my mother. She is following what is required. Those are 2 different things. She made sure I knew that. I have been out for 5 years now. I have a life, a real one, built from scratch, with the particular mix of difficulty and freedom that comes from constructing an existence in a world you were not raised to navigate. I have a job I chose, friends I chose, a small apartment with a window that faces east and lets in the morning light, and no one telling me what the morning requires of me. My mother has written me 11 more letters. Every one of them is about the harvest and the family and the things that are permitted. Every one of them contains, in the spaces between what is permitted, everything she cannot say directly. I have learned to read them the way you learn to read a language that exists between the lines of another language, slowly, carefully, with attention to what is absent as much as what is present. She has never said, "I miss you." She has said, in the most recent letter, "The kitchen garden did not do as well this year without the extra hands." I am the extra hands. She knows I know that. She has never said, "I wish you had stayed." She has said, "Your father sometimes stands at the door in the evening, looking toward the road." I know which road. The Maydung has not ended. I am still shunned, formally, in the community's understanding. My niece, Anna's girl, now 4 years old, does not know my name the way names are known inside a community. I am not present at the table. But I am present in 12 sentences, once every few months, on plain white paper in my mother's handwriting. And I have learned that presence inside constraint is still presence. It is not enough, but it is real. Here is what I want to say about the Maydung, clearly and without anger. A practice that requires a mother to not say her daughter's name in public is not holy. It may be old. It may be rooted in scripture as it has been interpreted over centuries. It may be practiced by people who are sincere and faithful, and who genuinely believe it serves God's purpose. But a practice that turns a mother's love into something that has to be smuggled, hidden inside harvest reports and kitchen garden updates, and the careful weight of the phrase, "I follow what is required," is not a practice that serves love. It is a practice that serves the institution. And the institution, in this case, is asking my mother to spend her mornings praying for a daughter she is not allowed to fully claim in daylight. That is the cost. That is what the Maydung costs. Not only the one who left, the one who stayed. My mother's most recent letter arrived last month. She told me the harvest was early this year. She told me my youngest brother has started courting. She told me my father's back is better. She told me she hopes I am warm. I wrote back. I told her I am warm. I told her I have a window that faces east and gets the morning light. I told her I am learning to make preserves, badly, nothing like hers, but I am learning. I did not tell her everything. Some things still have to be carried in the space between what is permitted and what is true. But I wrote back, and she will write again, and somewhere in the 12 sentences she is allowed to send me, she will find a way to tell me what she needs me to know. That is not the relationship I wanted. It is the relationship we have, and I am not done with it yet. If you have ever been loved by someone in a way that required them to partially erase you, I want you to know that the love was real, even if the erasure was real too. Both things can be true. Leave me a comment. Tell me, has someone directly, in your life, ever loved you in the only way their world allowed, and was it enough? I will read every single one. Subscribe to Beyond the Bonnet. Every letter my mother sends me is a story. I have more to tell. Until next time.